accustomed to that TV and just what we see on it. We're led to believe that that's the truth, and nobody ever questioned it until, not too long ago. And then really people started looking at it, and technology was the problem because they could fool us so easily. But, then people started the technology that they had for themselves now trickled out to the people. So Photoshop then became available to us, and, After Effects and all these different software platforms became available to the regular people, and people began to get trained on it. And then they could spot these fake things, and, now it's become a problem for them where the technology is now caught up. And we can use some tools that we never had before to find these fakers.
Speaking of the fakers, let's get to some of your work now. One of the things that I'll tell you what I think made me first realize that you're definitely onto something significant.
Mm-hmm.
Was your work concerning the Kathy Gifford shooting?
Giffords, yeah, Gabrielle Giffords.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kathy Gifford, she's alive. Sorry, didn't mean to freak everybody out. They didn't kill Kathy Gifford. Kathy Lee Gifford is fine. Some people are really wigging out right now.
Yeah. The Gabrielle Giffords event, that's sort of what started it off for me, and the Jared Loughner mug shot. And from that point on,
hold on.
Well, I mean, when I first saw I didn't see it live. How about now?
All right.
Better now?
You were just breaking up for a second again.
Okay.
All right.
Well, when I saw the Giffords event, and I didn't see it on the news, I saw it on YouTube in different. So I basically, the first thing I saw were the witnesses. And just from watching the witnesses, it was just there was a problem when it came to consistency of their testimony, and it's just they looked like the characters. I mean, they were wearing wigs, and of course the one that really caught my eye was Stephen Cates, and that was the guy with the pink hair. That was Jared Loughner's poetry classmate. And when I saw that, at first I said, this guy's faking it. Who's this guy fooling? So I tried to contact him through Facebook. And I sent him I was pretty rude to him at first. And, so he sent me back a nice, polite response, and I started talking to him. So he was the first one that I communicated with, if that was him. I don't know, saying that was his account, and that's who he says he was. So, but I later on found out that I thought he was a lawyer, and then later on found out from that he's actually related. He's a Greenberg. So he's a family member, and he works for New York Times. So, yeah, New York Times again. But so I started this, this whole adventure into finding out what was the real story, what happened there. I wanted to know what was going on, and that's when I was introduced to Joyce Riley on the Power Hour, and I was doing her show regularly about that, and she funded me to go down to Arizona and actually do some, hit the streets and do some investigating. And I did that, and from there, it branched out where I found the connection between the Pima County sheriffs and all these other individuals that are actors from that area, and it blew up. It went crazy at that point.
So was that your first really big story that you looked at?
Well, no, I mean, I worked on the Kennedy assassination stuff with Robert Groden when I was 15. I had the best-selling book with Groden called High Treason, and that book was used to make the movie JFK. And then the second book that we did was The Killing of a President, and that was a pretty successful book as well. But then we both partnered up and did the JFK: The Case for Conspiracy, a video documentary that I released through Blockbuster. So, I've had the experiences back then early on, and then from there, of course, I went into college, then to corporate, and then back into web and print and multimedia design. But I didn't really work on conspiracy stuff from that point on, other than keeping in touch with people. But
one of the things, now, before I even saw your work, I knew there was something wrong with that whole story. I mean, it smelled from the very beginning. It just reeked of a script. It reeked. I mean, there were just so many other things not even involving the personages behind it that just were huge red flags for me that this was a scripted event.
Yes, absolutely. I think that was the same feeling that most Americans got when they watched it.
Most Americans?
Most of the people that I've talked to said initially they had that feeling, but they didn't know what it was. They couldn't really put a finger on it, so they really didn't look into it until they started seeing some of my stuff and other people pointing out some different things. They thought it, but couldn't really say it.
One of the things that stuck out to me, right off the bat, was like the YouTube channel. That seemed like a psyop right there. That just had classic psyop fingerprints all over it. Mm-hmm. Here's this guy that shoots this congresswoman in the head and she lives. That alone makes you go like, what?
Yeah, a through wound with a hollow tip bullet.
Yeah. Okay, that shouldn't have happened. She should be dead.
Yeah.
The other aspect of it is, right after the shooting, what you start hearing about this in the alternative media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's hosts in the alternative media when the story breaks out going, we need to download this guy's videos, Because of course the guy's allegedly a truther, right? Which is suspicious on its own, just right there.
Yeah.
And
he had lots of things in what they make up about him that's just totally.
And just looking at the YouTube channel alone, I'm like, wait, this woman had subscribed to this guy's YouTube channel out of only 2 people before he shot her?
Yeah.
Actually, we'll touch on that on the other side of the break.
All right.
All right, we are back. Some Halloween music there. Appropriate. Let's see if I got any other spooky sounds to play. Wait. That's pretty spooky. Yeah, there we go. All right. I don't know if you saw, I posted that image that I mentioned in the room earlier, the obvious war shot.
Oh, no, I didn't see that. I haven't had that open because it was causing problems with the connection.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not watching it.
All right, so moving on, let's see, where were we? Kathy Lee Giffords. No, Kathy Lee Giffords.
Yeah.
Gabrielle Giffords, is that the name of the congresswoman?
That would be it, yep.
Okay, all right.
And it's funny you would say it like that, though, because if you remember back on that day, nobody knew who her name was. Nobody could pronounce it. They were saying it was Gabrielle Giffords. I mean, the newscasters didn't know who she was. Nobody knew who she was. So, that was little clues that I went, how come you don't know who this person is? Isn't she a congresswoman? Because I didn't know her, though. I was like, how could you not? So then I started looking in the National Archives for some records on her, and her name and 5 other individuals, 4 of them being her adjacent districts right around her district, and 1 in L.A., don't have any records for these Congress people.
Oh,
none.
That's a great point. So no voting record?
Nothing in the National Archives. Everybody else, I looked at every single representative, and I put them on this video, and those 6, those 5, it was 6, I believe, that didn't have any records. The only record, I take this back, there was a record for Giffords, but it was basically somebody had a blog that was talking about Reagan being shot, and it mentioned her shooting in it. So that was the only record for her.
That was it?
That was it.
Okay, there's another, I guess what you would call smoking gun, that's pretty blatant right there. A congressperson, did she just get created out of fiction?
Well, I mean, the National Archives has over 10 billion records. Anything that happens in Congress is going to be in there. And, I mean, like I said, I looked at all the members. I looked every single one of them up, and they all have, everything written about them, and, they're voting and things like that, and just everything that they've done. And basically, she has nothing, and neither do these other people. And they're all right around her district. That was amazing to me. So how do these people, I don't understand. I don't know.
That's a great point. The one I was making earlier is when you looked at this guy's, he's got a website, a YouTube page. He's got 2 subscribers. One of them being this congresswoman that he ends up shooting with a non-existent voting record. Okay. You got her amazing recovery.
Yeah.
Okay. And just in case they hadn't, and by the way, I don't know if you, I knew better. Just from what I understand about neurolinguistic programming and whatnot, when I looked at that guy's videos, there was something seriously wrong with them. And
they were contrived, yeah.
Yeah, there was something very, very fishy about them. And whenever you sometimes just have to go with your gut instincts. I don't know what it was, but when I looked at them, I'm like, nobody should be watching these. I mean, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I try to tell people to do. Don't believe what I'm saying. Go look it up for yourself. But I want them mostly to start using their gut, because that gut instinct that you have is usually right. Even if it might not be totally right, it's going to set you in the right path so you can find out the truth. And you see a mother up there on the news, she's crying her eyes out about her daughter being kidnapped, and she's not crying. There's no tears. The gut instinct goes, wait a second, something's wrong with this. And, people will jump on me and say, well, you're insensitive. What about the child? I'm like, what about the child? This mother's up there and she's fake crying. There's no child. Use common sense. So, they do these things to just bash our heads in constantly over and over, and then finally we just accept it, and it's just, no, I'm not going to accept it anymore. I don't.
Yeah, and as you're saying, with that incident, there's just so many things wrong with it that, even without seeing like the personages behind it, as you pointed out, you should know. I mean, another thing that stood out is the girl that was killed that day.
Yeah.
She was born on September 11th, 2001. How uncanny, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this guy happens to be the guy who shoots her is a truther.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, who writes this crap? Well, we know, we have some idea who writes this crap.
Absolutely.
But it's obviously, this is a bad Hollywood script. Not even a good one,
Oh, it's totally, when you look at this whole picture, the whole story, it's so textbook, just, operation from the military. It's so textbook how they're doing this that I can't believe that people haven't jumped on it even more. But you see, immediately after that shooting, what was the first thing that happened? They started, pitching the anti-guns, the anti-free speech, and this is coming from a sheriff that's supposedly for 50 years experience, and he's now saying things that could, totally throw a trial and a mistrial. I mean, and they release one mugshot, and then 3 days later they release another one, the Marshall's one, and it's a different person. I mean, can you say mistrial, please? I mean, it's ludicrous that they even try this and then continue to do it. And then you got the fact that her husband, right? He's a twin astronaut. Now, who do we know that had the reputation for twins and, with paperclip and all that stuff? We see those telltale signs of individuals that we've seen using other stories and things that all lead back to this one individual who is known for the twins, and that's Greenberg, who is Mengele.
Okay.
So, yeah,
and that I'm not sure on, but again, state your point.
Sure.
Then again, maybe I don't see it because I don't see the faces. I don't know about that. But
here's the thing about him. And this isn't just the photographs. I've pulled up his declaration papers for when he came to the United States and his citizenships and all that stuff. I pulled those up. Now the documents I've looked at, they appear to be real documents, but the information on them is fake, and they've been photoshopped. The signatures from one has been photoshopped to another one. But when you look at the dates on them, it says he came to the United States in 1929. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense. So when you look at that and you see all these fake things, you have to think about, is this person even real? Was Dr. Mengele, is he a fictitious person? Was it just a whole big story? And is this person just the one that they've used as the model of it? Yeah. I mean, the questions go on and on.
That's a good question, and I want to get this when we talk about some of the characters a bit later, because that's a very good point you make. Okay, so this angel of death, right? How they've gotten here before the war even started? Yeah, 1929. Valid question. Again, I want to get back to this Giffords thing. This girl that was born on September 11th, and this is where I started saying, you know what? Because I looked at some of your work, and again, when you see people come out especially on the internet, you wonder. It's normal. Sure. It's paranoia is a heightened state of alertness, right? Somebody had told me that. I can't remember who it was, but anyway. So I'm wary, and this is one of the things that I saw where this was one of the first ones, that I was like, oh, he just nailed this one. One of my listeners, I think she's actually in the chat room, her name's Vicky, she had sent me a compilation of some photos that you had put together, and someone was, because I guess you pointed her to through you, she found the albums herself. And she put together a montage of this girl that was allegedly killed on that day. And the girl who was after that day celebrating some girl's birthday.
Samantha Sexton, yes, yeah. Yeah, that was the face. When I found those pictures, that was the first face that I looked at and went, wait a second, I found the photograph of, Christina Taylor Greene, and then I learned out who it was and learned the whole family. But yes, I'd like to see that picture that she did, by the way. I would love to see that. Okay, I'll get that from her and forward it to you. And I'm like, that's it. I mean, I can see this clear as day. That is the same girl. So again, you have, and I was like, whoa, he nailed this one, because that girl that allegedly got killed on that day when this congresswoman who got shot in the head miraculously survived, she's still alive, and she is smiling with her sisters and celebrating, and and then you find out that her grandfather, is her great grandfather is Maurice Greenberg, and then her, it's like, what? And then her grandfather is Michael Greenberg, who is Dallas Green, of course. But then you see these photographs of their family album, and then it all makes sense. It just goes, wow.